A shockwave ripples through Japan's security debate amid tensions with China. Nuclear weapons, once unthinkable, are back in the conversation. Japan has swiftly reaffirmed its decades-old pledge never to possess nuclear weapons. This after reports that a senior security official suggested the country should acquire them to deter future threats. Japan, the only country ever to suffer atomic bombings, is being forced to confront an unthinkable question once again. After a senior government official suggested Japan should consider acquiring nuclear weapons, Tokyo moved swiftly to shut down the speculation. Japan's government has now reaffirmed its long-standing no nukes pledge, insisting there is no change in policy. Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara made it clear: Japan will not possess nuclear weapons, will not produce them, and will not allow them onto its soil.
We are certainly aware of the media reports. However, we must refrain from commenting on the specifics of each individual report. As the government, we have consistently stated that we firmly uphold the three non-nuclear principles as a fundamental policy
through the enactment of laws, cabinet orders, and personnel appointments. Since the war, our nation has consistently contributed to the peace and prosperity of the international community, and that position remains unchanged.
Furthermore, as the only nation to have suffered wartime atomic bombings, our country, in close cooperation with the international community, intends to advance realistic and practical initiatives to maintain and strengthen the NPT regime, aiming for a world free of nuclear weapons.
Regarding the point about nuclear sharing, generally, the government understands so-called nuclear sharing to mean placing U.S. nuclear weapons on its own territory in peacetime and in an emergency, maintaining a system that allows its own fighter jets and other aircraft to be equipped with and operate these nuclear weapons.
I understand that this is considered a framework for sharing U.S. nuclear deterrence for our own national defense.
Regarding nuclear sharing, if it refers to a framework like I just mentioned, the government's three non-nuclear principles, and in consideration of its relationship with the legal framework, including the Basic Atomic Energy Act, non-nuclear weapons possess the potential to inflict immeasurable devastation upon humanity, and to ensure that they are never again employed in the future, it is our duty to lead the international community's endeavors toward a world completely free of nuclear weapons, a mission we believe is incumbent upon our nation, as the sole country to have experienced the horrors of wartime atomic bombings.
Regarding our response to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, we believe it is necessary to carefully consider, from the perspective of what is truly effective for ensuring our nation's security and achieving substantial progress in nuclear disarmament, all while carefully assessing the international situation.
The comments come amid a growing political and public debate in Japan over its three non-nuclear principles that are not to possess, develop, or allow nuclear weapons on its territory, a stance rooted in history and trauma. These principles are deeply rooted in history, shaped by the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and have defined Japan's post-war identity for decades. But the comments that sparked this controversy reveal a growing anxiety. With China's military power expanding, North Korea accelerating its nuclear program, and regional tensions rising, Japan's security debate is entering dangerous territory. However, a Reuters investigation published earlier this year found increasing willingness within Japan to reconsider those principles, mainly driven by doubts over U.S. security guarantees under President Donald Trump and rising threats from nuclear-armed neighbors, China, Russia, and North Korea. Some lawmakers in the ruling party have even suggested allowing U.S. nuclear weapons to enter Japan aboard submarines or other platforms as a way to strengthen deterrence without outright ownership. Prime Minister Takaichi herself stirred controversy last month by refusing to rule out future changes to the non-nuclear principles, as her government prepares a new defense strategy next year. The official behind the remarks reportedly argued that Japan needs nuclear weapons for deterrence, even while admitting such a shift would be politically explosive. Opposition parties reacted with outrage, demanding accountability and warning that even discussing nuclear armament risks undermining regional stability. China has also raised concerns, cautioning that any move toward nuclear weapons would threaten peace in East Asia.
The Chinese side is deeply concerned by the relevant media reports. If these reports are confirmed, the situation would be extremely grave, exposing a dangerous scheme by some in Japan to breach international law and acquire nuclear weapons. China and the international community must remain highly vigilant and express grave concern. For some time, Japan has continuously erred in military and security matters, drastically adjusting its security policy, unilaterally loosening its collective self-defense rights, and attempting to strengthen extended deterrence cooperation. It seeks and shares various means, including revising the 3 non-nuclear principles, to promote the return of allied nuclear weapons to Japan. Currently, certain factions within Japan are once again hinting at their desire to possess nuclear weapons. This clearly reflects the Japanese right-wing conservative forces' ambition to revive militarism, to break free from the constraints of the international order, and to accelerate their expanding militarization ambitions. The Japanese side attempts to present itself as a leading advocate for establishing a world free of nuclear weapons and to cultivate a narrative portraying itself as a nuclear victim of World War II. In reality, however, the Japanese side has failed to thoroughly reflect upon the aggressive wars it launched, thereby becoming a source of instability that challenges the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and actively undermines the international nuclear non-proliferation system. The international community must be vigilant and see through Japan's hypocritical stance on nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. Recently, multiple Japanese political parties, many politicians, and numerous civil society organizations have called for strict adherence to the 3 non-nuclear principles to prevent the recurrence of war's tragic devastation. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the Chinese People's War of Resistance and the World Anti-Fascist War. Japan must deeply reflect on its historical crimes, abide by international law and its own constitution, stop seeking pretexts for military expansion, and stop testing the international community's bottom line on nuclear issues.
For now, Tokyo insists the line will not be crossed, but the debate itself, once unthinkable, is now out in the open. And as global tensions rise, Japan's nuclear taboo is being tested like never before.